Welcome to Midlife Mojo, the podcast all about how to be fit and flourish in your 50s, with me, your host with over 25 years of experience in the health, fitness, and wellness industry, Lisa DuPree. We'll be talking about all the things that support living life to the fullest. Let's dive in. Hello. This is Season 2, Episode 9 of the Midlife Mojo podcast. Today's topic is about a way of thinking and feeling that can keep you from consistently sticking to a plan and making progress on your goals to be fit and flourish in midlife. What we're talking about today applies to big, complex goals as well as small, simple actions. It's important to be aware of this because it can keep you from being consistent with your goals for eating healthier, being more active, losing weight, or feeling less stressed. It's what I like to call rebellious excitement. That's what we're going to be chatting about today. A couple of situations where rebellious excitement might be a factor are when you know what to do for your health and you're still not doing it. Or when you have a concrete plan, but you're not consistently taking action on that and doing the steps. Or even when you know what the action step is and it'll only take a few minutes, so you just put it off and do other things like scroll your socials, watch a show on Netflix, take a nap. So doing something instead. What it's not is a situation where you don't know what to do or you're confused as to what your next step should be. It's also not that you don't have a good handle on what you need to do. It's more like you know what you're supposed to do, and then you're choosing not to do it, or you're making a different choice that doesn't support your goal attainment. And if you are in that place, or if you find yourself in that situation more than you'd like, I'm going to offer you an idea for what might be going on that keeps you from being consistent and following through. Because, when you're on your own as an adult, there's really nothing to force us to follow through on our goals. Think back to when you were a kid or even a young adult in school. You needed to get an assignment done because, your teacher assigned it and said you had to do it or you'd get an F. You had to do chores because there was a chore chart on the wall and your parents would yell at you or ground you if you didn't do your chores. And now, as mature adults, when it comes to our health, fitness, and well-being, we are often left to our own devices. And most of the time, there's no one holding us accountable for taking care of ourselves. I noticed this recently when I was talking to a group about losing weight. Things that kept coming up from the group members were things like, I'm not following the diet like I'd planned to, or I've been pretty good at following the plan, but I'm still having, some food that's not on the plan, like having pizza every night or having a soda and chocolate bar in the afternoon. Also, several people in the group mentioned things like forgetting to go to the gym or deciding to sleep in instead of going for their morning jog. They also mentioned other common slip-ups that they felt like they would have avoided if they had just had more discipline or were more dedicated to losing weight. And that's not necessarily true, what's going on. These individuals, they were showing up to the meetings, they had set realistic goals, they had relevant action steps, and they were actually doing a good bit of the work, but just not being really consistent. And they were expressing frustration with not feeling like they were making progress fast enough. This is the kind of thing that starts a cycle where there's a downstream effect of guilt, perhaps some shame coming up, and negative thoughts or negative self-talk. And this often results in, getting down on yourself because you're not being perfect. And there can be a lot behind the choices that we make that are considered to be not following the rules or not sticking to your goal. And we often fail to recognize or acknowledge that in the moment that those choices are made, in real time, there is a very very real benefit for not taking the action that you intended to or was planned on, and instead choosing this other thing. Because if we're really being honest, a lot of the times it just feels damn good in the moment to make this other choice. It feels so good to have like that piece of triple chocolate cake when your diet plan has you eating an apple for dessert. It can feel like a huge relief to skip a workout after a long, stressful day at work and have a couple of glasses of wine instead. There's a bit of that rebellious excitement that happens when we're all, I know I'm supposed to be doing this thing, eating the apple or going to exercise after work. We're supposed to be doing it, but we don't and make a different choice instead. It's like there is this inner rebel that just takes over. And it creates this nice feeling for not having to follow the rules or do what we're supposed to do, even if we are the ones that put those rules in place. You're getting a quick surge of pleasure, or even relief in choosing to do what you want to do in that moment. There's that quick dopamine hit in your brain when you kind of say to yourself, I know I'm supposed to do this, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do that. So, there. You're essentially just kind of giving the middle finger to your logical plan that has, been thought out and aligns with your goal. But it just feels really good in the moment. And when you think about it, this makes sense. As humans, we strive for independence. We crave autonomy. We want to be the ones calling the shots. And our inner rebel can't stand to be told what to do. I like to imagine it as a toddler throwing just a massive tantrum. This feeling or need to rebel is called psychological reactance. And it's your brain's reaction when you feel there's a threat to your freedom or you think your choices are being limited. And this response can make you feel, anxious, panicky, annoyed, even angry. When we are perceiving that our choices are limited or rules that are put in place, for us to follow, even when the logical part of our brain, was in agreement with that plan or even set up those guidelines, like our rebellious toddler brain feels limited and threatened. And this can lead us to do the opposite of what we'd intended or planned and can end up resulting in a good bit of self-sabotage. So, how do we work with our need to rebel when it has to do with our health and well-being? And one thing to do is to begin noticing your emotions and your reactions in general to different forms of rules or guidelines. Like this could be societal rules. A lot of things come to mind when I think about like the pandemic, brings several situations that you could use to kind of notice what is your natural reaction. This could be at work or even expectations that you have or your family members or your friends have for you, at home or in your friend circle. And so how do you react when your choices are being limited? How do you react when you're expected to do something that you don't particularly feel like doing? Being able to notice what comes up for you as you think about these situations can give you a pretty good idea on how you handle this psychological reactance. And then it's important to identify the thoughts and feelings happening in a specific situation where you feel this urge or you're tempted to abandon your plan and get off track, specifically with your health-related goals. So for the person who chose the cake for dessert, they felt like they'd been really good all day, following all the rules, and that, they deserve that piece of cake as a reward at the end of the day. And for the person who had that stressful day at work and chose to drink wine instead of going to work out, they were feeling really anxious already from the stressful day, and they just wanted quick relief and to be able to relax. And when you notice these urges to make a choice that's not aligned with your goals, one thing that can be really helpful is take a moment. The first thing is noticing, and then just take a moment, pause, take a deep breath or two, and notice. Notice what your thoughts are. Notice what feelings you're having in that moment. It may help to ask yourself a couple of these questions. Like, in that moment when you're pausing and breathing, like, what's really going on here? What is it that I really need at this moment? Where is this urge coming from? Another good question to consider is, will this choice help me accomplish my goal? Like, is it really aligned with what I plan to do or what my goal is? And so taking this moment to pause and notice what is going on in your brain, it gives you a chance to get back to a place of logic and a little bit more in control and not as much at the mercy of the inner rebel in your brain having a fit. And so retraining your brain, managing your emotions, it takes awareness and practice to balance making choices aligned with your overall health goals and what you might want to do in the moment for quick relief or for pleasure. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't be doing things that you enjoy, doing things that bring you pleasure or relief. Taking care of yourself and enjoying life is part of self-care. However, if you're having a hard time staying consistent with your plan for accomplishing your goal, and it's realistic, you've thought it through, you've committed to it, but you're still just making some choices that aren't aligned with it, you want to make sure that that goal is really important to you and that outcome that you want is really important to you. And just taking that moment, taking that pause, thinking through some of those questions of what's really going on. Is this going to help me accomplish what I want to do? Is this going to help me get to the next step? It can be really helpful when you recognize that your inner rebel is acting out in a way that's, going to take you off track. And then you can begin to get a better understanding of yourself and the choices that you're making. And as a health coach, I love working with my clients to notice what's keeping them from being consistent and helping them move past these kind of obstacles that come up when their inner rebel takes over. If you're interested in getting additional support, visit lisadupreecoaching.com for coaching options. You can also connect with me directly on Instagram at Lisa DuPree Coaching. I'll have the links for all those connection points in the show notes. And that is it for today, my friends. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a rating and a review. This really helps keep the podcast going and enables it to reach more people who want to be fit and flourish in their 50s. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.